I really wish I had a voice changer to start this out with, just so I could do the whole like L impersonation. It would be a whole lot better to start this out and just like do the whole intro pretending to be L. That's not the button I'm looking for. This is the button I'm looking for.
You kick yourself out.
I
What's
want to hit
going
the
on,
red
everybody?
X button. No.
What's going on, people?
All right, ladies and gentle bitches, it is time for the 9th installment of Fictionology. And this time around, it's Roman's pick, Death Note.
Yes,
which
sir.
is
Yes, sir.
a lot longer one than I usually watch in a month for one of these sections.
Apologies.
No, it's fine. We got Roland's next month with Star Blazers, and that's going to
If
be
he
even
shows.
longer than this. Yeah, if he shows. So unfortunately, it looks like Pilgrim won't be able to be here, even though this is one of the few animes he's actually watched. Hello, JM. I appreciate you showing up and being around. So I don't think I really need to explain what the stream is about. We're basically going into detail and doing in-depth discussion about Death Note. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words a little bit because I'm trying to ad-lib a lot of this stuff. Normally I have it rehearsed in my head, but my brain's been so fried from waking up at like 6 a.m. And working out in like 100-degree heat.
Got to beat the heat, man.
And then it was an alcohol kind of night, so there's a little bit of that on top of it too. This is my first one, by the way, and there's almost nothing gone, so I'm not that far gone. Either way, I can still solve some crimes or something like that.
Weaponized autism, huh, Crimson? Let's lay it out there, man.
Yes, we'll figure out who stole Roman's virginity.
Oh,
you know what, bro?
It was Palpatine.
Anyway,
so insofar as Death Note is concerned, to do a little bit of a synopsis, like basically crime. I don't want to describe it as like a mystery because you kind of know everything that's going on. It's more along the lines of a crime thriller. Something I think would be a good example would be if anyone's seen the movie Heat. That's like the best comparison I could pull right off the top of my head because it's a movie I watched some more recently with my father. The point being is it's a cat and mouse game between a detective and a killer, and it all revolves around that dynamic of who will get who first. Which, honestly, the series does very well for the most part.
Yeah, and we can like get into this a little later, but I think before the shift change, like the cat and mouse was done extremely well, actually. And I'm not gonna lie, like when I was younger, like when I got into Naruto and then when I got into Dragon Ball, I had seen parts of Death Note, but I hadn't remembered it fully. So watching it through a couple of months ago, I was on the edge of my seat watching that. And just it was just making me think like, does Light get caught? Or, does L get him? And then as we can get into later when things change, it kind of turned me off a little bit. But overall, I'd say it's pretty like for not being action heavy, it's pretty freaking good.
There are a lot of like small things that I do want to get into, and there are a couple of like debatable topics in here. Like one of the ones we'll get to tonight is, and we'll save this for later, and give our like impression of the series, like go around the table and I'll give our impressions. But one of the topics I do want to eventually get to is the question of, is Light a good person? Like just Light Yagami without the Death Note. Was he a good person or not? That will be for later, because there are a lot of ways you can cut that up and analyze it. So, but for now, I guess I'll start by giving my impression of the series. I have started to really like these sorts of shows, and I'll draw some similarities to some stuff that's currently airing. But the thriller element of it is particularly what I like, because with these sorts of shows, you really do need a level head and a lot of foresight to make these sort of plots work. That's why I respect them. Stuff like ReZero or the Apothecary Diaries with this thriller element to it. You need to know your end goal before you even start it. Otherwise, you're going to be stumbling over yourself and you risk running into a bunch of contradictions. That's one of the big strengths of these sorts of stories is they can be incredibly complex because the author generally knows where they want to go with it. That's the biggest element of this that I respect. But the animation overall in this as well, like just the visual appeal. I like the character designs. I feel like the way they or their choice in color palette and the way they did everything in this show also kind of helps. It's one of those things where you're trying to balance the darker elements of this story with trying to make it visually appealing and not totally grungy and all that. I feel like they did a good job in doing a lot of dull colors rather than anything bright or overly dark or anything like that. Like I said with the animation, because it's not very action heavy, you can generally focus a lot on just keeping a steady quality across the anime. Even in minor things, the animation quality was pretty consistent. I used a couple of clips of light in the intro because they just generally are very well directed parts of the anime. Just the shots on them, the camera angles and all that, the flow of motion, all of that stuff, really good work. And then it made really good use of its two pivotal characters. Well, I should say really good, but not perfect use of its two pivotal characters, because this whole show to me really did hinge on the battle of wits between Light and L. And once you removed one of those two critical components that really made this show pop off, because let's be honest, a lot of the other characters involved in this were almost sideshows. You were watching this because you wanted to see who would win in the end between Light and L.
Would you say though, before you continue, would you say that Ryuk is a main character?
I would say he's actually a supporting character. Yeah, because I would say that the main character is Light. And he's also the villain of the story, but he's the protagonist with the villain, and we can get into all that weird stuff. But as far as this goes, the whole core of this show's success hinges on that battle of wits between Light and L. Without that, the show is not as good. It's very much like how and it's written very much in a similar way to something like the Apothecary Diaries, where you have a lot of things happening in a very complex way. And in the end, you're just kind of left with that feeling of, holy crap, that was really good. So by the end of the series, I was fairly impressed. It went about how I expected. I genuinely enjoyed it, even if the last part of this, the last 13 episodes of the series are
not as good as
harsh
the first
drop in storytelling quality just because they needed to end it.
Yeah.
But I do think that this is an 8 or 9 out of 10 kind of series. And that's my impression of it.
All right. How about Muffler goes, since I have, talked a lot in here?
Oh, no worries, man. Yeah. So for me, I did enjoy the rewatch. I think I never finished the series back when it was originally airing or close to airing. I think I maybe had an opportunity to watch it maybe sometime around 2012-ish, somewhere around there is what I'm thinking. But then, it would have already gotten to be a pretty well-known established property at that point, because that would have been 5 years or so after it was released. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on the mindset with it. And I actually misremembered certain things. I was convinced that certain things happened, and that wasn't the case. So I'm pretty sure that I was maybe projecting some of my original expectations on it based off bad memories and stuff. I mean, you get old enough, that happens, right? But the thing is I'm not normally a person that likes crime dramas or thrillers and stuff like that. Once in a while, a story will grab me, So the most recent comparison I can draw from is basically a K-drama, right? So I watched Flex X Cop, that one has really good storytelling in it, good writing. good character dynamics, basically everything that this has, and I really enjoyed, again, like the first 2/3 of the show, basically, especially the interactions with Elle and Light. I felt that was all very good. You're like watching a stylized chess match, where it's very much like trying to guess 2 and 3 moves ahead, and unless you're as smart as the author, you're not gonna, you're gonna be along for the ride, having a good time, right? So it's really well done in that regard. As far as all the other points that you mentioned too, Crimson, I'm definitely in alignment with you on that, man. I mean, the color palette choices and stuff, it's very mundane most of the time, and then it becomes super stylized when it needs to be, to like emphasize certain things, or like how malevolent Light is and stuff.
It makes the highlights stand out in that way. Yeah, I do agree.
Yep. And then I watched this dubbed too, and I did enjoy the dub. There was definitely, it has its cheesy moments, which are memed to death at this point, and I'm sure we'll get into a couple of them. But like,
I take this potato chip.
Yeah, I ain't got a bag of chips.
I eat it.
Yeah, for like 2 episodes.
Roman saying something like that somewhere.
But yeah, so fun stuff like that, right? But outside of some of those lighthearted moments, I mean, it takes itself very seriously, and it does play with the subject matter quite a bit, and it really gives you an idea. It's like, well, if you gave virtually unlimited power to a sociopath, what would happen? And that's what you get in Death Note. It's really good, So yeah,
hey, he's here, Pilgrim.
No takesy backsies. I'm not saying everything I just said again. Sorry.
So the only person who hasn't given their impression of the series now is you, Roman. So
okay, so I guess by all technicality, I'm still kind of an anime outsider, even though I've watched like Naruto in full, Dragon Ball in full, Attack on Titan, Cowboy Bebop, and now Death Note. I don't have the same scope to judge anime, kind of like how y'all do. But
I was gonna say those are all like very normie anime, to be honest.
Pretty much.
Right,
but that's okay. So, I mean,
it's fine. Normies are fine. I just don't like tourists.
So yes. I don't have the same lens to judge anime through, but my comparison is that yes, Death Note is indeed a crime thriller, but I would also say that I compare it kind of in the way that like the Dark Knight's crime that's like a crime thriller too, kind of sort of, except this is in a episodic way crime thriller, and you're just kind of wondering, like, is Elle gonna catch Light, or is Light going to get away with it? And kind of like to y'all's point, like the animation changes when it needs to, which is something that watching through like certain other animes, I wasn't used to that. I was like, oh wow, okay, this is actually something that's different and cool. And so Crimson earlier said that he would give it an 8 or 9. So here's my thing. I give the first 2/3 a 9.5, and then the last 13 episodes a 6. So I don't know what that would round out to, like a 7.5 maybe, or like like an 8, because I'm not gonna say what happens exactly at this moment, but when Elle leaves the show drops off very heavy. At least that's my own point of view. You still have Light, and Light is like interesting, but Light's conflict, at least in my eyes, is more interesting when he has Elle. And so overall, I like this show, and I think it's very well written. I like the animation, and I do enjoy the musical cues. But just the last 13 episodes, there's a drop off, but overall, I think it's good. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and there are some like writing hiccups that I do have a problem with. You can basically like tell where the story is going to go within the first 2 or 3 episodes just based on Light's actions. Particularly around the initial broadcast.
Yep.
And it really irks me that like right out the gate, you start seeing like his like just how absolutely arrogant he is. Because it's at that moment, the moment like his arrogance starts taking over, okay, this dude is gonna cook himself because he thinks he's invincible.
But kind of to
It's
your
not
point,
bad though,
He could have just
because
stopped, but
no, well, here's the thing
Yeah.
is, he literally all he had to do in that situation, that was his biggest fuck up in this whole series. It would have gone a whole lot farther. I think the story actually might have been better if you had him not fall to his own arrogance right then and there. But the writer needed a way to bring L into the story fully and have him focus on the investigation specifically in Japan. So that broadcast is specifically to get L and Light pitted against each other, even though they already technically were. It was sort of to level the playing field. And I feel like if they hadn't done that, we probably would have gotten a whole lot more out of the good core of it, which is the Light L or the Light L dichotomy.
So let me ask you fellas, do you guys think that Light is not dumb, but that he lets his arrogance blind him? Because I actually can think of an example where he may have just gotten lucky, but I think he outsmarted and saved himself from, getting caught. It was when he just putting this out there, spoilers, when he when he outsmarted the wife of that cop and made her go and delete herself right when she was going to go and tell what she knew to the cops, and he had to find a way to get her real, and he had to find a way to get her real name. Like, he wasn't being arrogant then. I get what you mean, but I think there were times where Light was smart, but his arrogance was what cooked him, though. Yes.
Well, here's the thing. Insofar as Light goes, I do agree with this, and I think the show actually would have been really good still because of this. L still had means to pinpoint Kira's location. He had already had a hunch that Kira was in Japan based on where Kira had started killing. It makes sense. That would have been L's means to narrow down the investigation and to narrow down the location, and would have put him in Japan just as effectively as doing the whole broadcast. But I think the broadcast was kind of a way to show Light's fatal flaws, even though I don't really agree with how they used it. So that was his big mess up, and you did mention the next one that I was going to mention. Light kills the FBI agents.
Yep.
His big mistake was killing Ray Pember right before Ray Pember was about to clear it.
Yeah.
Pember was literally saying, this guy can't possibly be Kira, and was going to report it. Then he dies, and he pulls the spotlight right back on himself. Then he has to kill Pember's girlfriend.
Oh, sorry, not wife. Yeah. Okay.
Fiance.
Yeah.
So technically both.
But yeah. So when he kills,
insofar as this goes, just to make my final comment on it, Light killing first in Japan is completely natural the way they did it. He wanted to test the notebook, and it just so happened there was a convenient excuse for him to test the notebook. So that in and of itself would have been it would have made I think the show go better, in my opinion. But I'm not the writer of this series, so we'll see.
Yeah, and I do think that ultimately overall Light's arrogant, I think that his arrogance did ultimately cook him. But I would also say though, and I don't know if y'all would agree here, but the fact that he was able to get away with it for as long as he did, he either has to be really smart or he was just lucky. It has to be one of those two things.
It was I think he got it in his last year of high school. He went through college and became a detective. So we're talking at least 6 years that he acted as Kira.
Yeah. It was
I believe enough for his middle school sister to become an adult.
Yeah.
I do think though that luck played a very heavy hand in him getting away with a lot of it, especially around uh I guess I'll say the when he disowns the Death Note. He
Yeah,
relinquishes ownership of the Death Note. That was entirely lucky. I don't care. It was entirely lucky because you
that was
cannot
luck.
predict the way people behave and stuff like that. Down like all the way down to that. That's just a fantastical belief. Everything that Light did in that whole arc of the story was pure luck.
That's true.
Like a little bit of it was calculated, but it was a
Yep.
gamble overall because I mean, knowing that he would wear the watch, yeah, that was something that you could figure out. Using the mechanics of the Death Note to get around some of the fuckery, that was something you could plan for. Everything in between him relinquishing the Death Note and getting it back was entirely based on luck,
Yeah,
especially because it was like a 1 month period or longer than that, I believe.
Yeah, it was they would like 50 days, I think is what the
Well,
story.
he was incarcerated for 50 days. He
Yeah.
knew he was still Kira for two weeks out of that. He was then for the rest of it, he was just Light.
Okay. That's right. And then
Um,
however many months of investigation afterwards when he was working with L. Yeah. That's right. No, I was going to say too, like you mentioned, like some of it had to do with whether it be intelligence or luck, and I would say absolutely it's a bit of both because the issue with that is that the story beats you over the head repeatedly about how intelligent Light is because of the emphasis on the schoolwork and how incredibly dedicated he is. So he's definitely a driven individual, and that comes across in the story in a lot of different ways. Hence, why he's a sociopath. And yeah.
and yeah, it was a calculated risk, but the odds were stacked against him to the point where luck was needed. Well, this is just kind of part of the gamble thing that I was talking about. Is it would basically interesting,
okay.
interesting. Well, anyone could. I think a lot of people could get a lot farther than Light because they would simply just not have the same kind of ego and need to kill. The moment they
Yeah,
realize, let's just say, like, you're in his position, most people, once they realize that L is on the case, they would probably cut back or just like back off
they
from
would
it
stop.
entirely.
Yeah,
And the case would
yeah,
go almost entirely cold. Some brave people would like occasionally write a couple of names in the Death Note.
yeah.
But that's
So
his fatal flaw, though. I mean, he ended up having like a super god complex, man, and that he never relinquished that the entire time.
Well,
Like,
here's
oh
the
my
thing:
god,
is that God complex became a thing the moment he attained absolute power. Before that, I mean, he at least seemed like, or at least presented an outward appearance of being um a decent person. Okay, and this is where we can get into the debate of whether Light is a good person, or he was a good person and was easily corruptible by power, or whether he was always a ticking time bomb, and this was basically just the spark that blew the whole thing up.
see,
Um,
my thing is, how could he not be a ticking time bomb? And the reason that I bring that up is that he says it's either in episode 1 or 2 that his goal is that he wants to kill criminals and criminals only. But then how many episodes later does he just flat out murder Pember? Like, bro, he's killing the agents instantly. So it can't just be about crime for him. Like
well,
he
he here's the thing that I will say. In all the times where Light is unaware of the Death Note, he comes across as a pretty good person. Like he cares
mm,
about his family,
yeah,
like is genuinely invested. And when he gives up the Death Note, he actually seems terribly concerned with stopping Kira. Like he is dead on dedicated. Like is very like concerned about like his father's health and all that, like all throughout the show. So his family matters to him. There are some actual good parts of Light. I just think that like the Death Note, much like the One Ring, basically unlocked the most evil part of him, or enabled the most evil part of him, I guess you could say. The little thing in the back of his mind where like all his life he had been better than everyone, and you do see traces of this. Like every time he talks about Misa, she's just too dumb to be my partner. Like, let me comment on that. How do you shit on a girl who's that ride or die for you?
Right,
Like, come
bro.
on.
Right.
I was gonna ask Roman, not to switch subjects, but well, I mean, we'll come back to Misa. All right, I got a question for Roman on her later, but no, yeah, I'm
God.
with you. Yeah, no,
Go
I'm
ahead.
with you. I'm with you on what you're saying on this too, because the issue with him though, there's a couple different things at play. One, when he does not have the power of the Death Note, okay, when he relinquishes control over it. And he starts going through the process of investigating Kira. He often questions. He's like, am I Kira? Would I be willing to do something like this? He questions himself as he's going through the investigation as well, you know. So he has a disassociation on that quite a bit. And I was going to say too, but here's the thing with it is that I thought at first it would be just an issue on whether or not it's his sense of justice, right, is what caused it. But here's the thing: his dad gets in control of the Death Note as well, and he has a strong sense of justice. That's where he got it from, was his father, and his father chooses not to use it. He says, I can't use it, right? So it's like, I think you have to have a prerequisite on, you know, being like strongly motivated on what you think right and wrong is, and then it's a coin flip on whether or not you'll actually choose to do something heinous.
Would you guys say that his like original mission of taking out criminals was actually like genuine then? Like,
I think, well,
I
the
don't
saying
know.
is, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
But I do kind of agree, because overall in like the story, you see Light because is basically a narcissist. He loves
Yeah.
himself. And this is one of the arguments where I go back and forth, and why I wanted to bring up this debate as far as like whether Light is or isn't a good person. I am of the mind that Light was never actually a good person. He used the facade of a good person because it was convenient to him and it made him feel good about himself. Like
Yeah.
all throughout the story, the way he treats everyone is calculated. Even like, and you can see when things don't start going his way, he gets abusive as fuck. Like he treats Misa like shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, insofar as that goes, I believe that what it was this part was always a part. The narcissism was always a part of him, but to take a ReZero quote, "Murder is a habit." The moment he killed someone the first time, he realized he basically had unlimited power and he could do whatever he wanted with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like it would be near impossible to catch him. And that does spawn the arrogance that later ends up getting him caught.
Yeah.
But
it is. What do you want to ask me about Misa?
A very intriguingly well-written character insofar as all these things go. When you can go in and like start talking about all these things and like the intricate little pieces that make up the character, there are some like actually good elements to Light, but overall he's a piece of shit in most of the things he did. Especially, should I kill my sister?
Yeah, no,
I can't
man.
believe that. Yeah, man.
That part was like, yeah. If it wasn't already obvious by the fact that he was willing to kill like FBI agents who had done nothing wrong and get innocent people involved in his plots by intentionally handing off the Death Note to someone who is as corrupt and power hungry as possible.
So before we get to Misa, I did want to have one thing. So with what Gray Pilgrim is saying in chat, right? So it's, he did a lot of good too, right? So I don't know about how that would work, in my opinion, because you're talking to a person that's not necessarily pro death penalty, because sometimes people can get it wrong, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, well,
I
they
think
could be
I think the
convicted of a
death penalty
crime.
should really just be reserved for the thing, like the most heinous of all things you can find that you are absolutely 100% proven to be guilty of.
Correct.
Like if someone catches you in the act doing not good things to children, death penalty
Yeah,
kind of
100%.
thing.
I mean, yeah, and so that's the frame of reference, but like the scope of what of people he was killing, not only good people, but just the scope of criminals in general, right? Like these are
Mhm.
things that did not deserve the death penalty, okay, or that you could be judged incorrectly, okay, and found guilty of a crime that you didn't commit, and it wouldn't
Yeah.
matter to Light because he would just be wielding that power and just
Well,
chopping everybody
here's
down
the
anyway.
thing: is this is
That's
actually a
true.
good thought. This is one thing I wanted to touch on because, as far as my recollection goes, the series never really paints that side of the picture. They only give Light the benefit of the doubt in all these things. They basically
Hmm.
assume that every criminal Light kills is the worst of the worst kind of person who deserved it.
Yeah, like what if he
But
just killed
they never ask these questions. They never ask about like, well, what actually were the circumstances of what people were killing. They give them like a vague sort of thing, like well, he doesn't kill people whose circumstances are questionable or whatever, who acted in self-defense, but they never give a specific case in which there's some level of gray area that can be
Yeah, like I'm kind of thinking, like, so with like what he's doing, like, what if he just and like I'm not saying that like shoplifting's not a crime, but shoplifting, murder, like like if someone tries to steal a loaf of bread and gets caught, why should they die because Light just decided to like write their name down? It's dumb. No, nah, like
And to Gray Pilgrim's point too, he's like, nah, purge them all, right? It's like, well, you show me the man and I can show you the crime, right? So, like, I mean, if we wanted to go down that path, then we're all just going to end up, facing the righteous justice of Kira, right? So
well,
you got to be
to
careful
some
about that.
extent, they do kind of. Like, to be fair, in the later arc, because I kind of skimmed the after after L was out of the series, I kind of started to skim because I just wasn't as interested anymore.
I don't blame
But
you.
they do start to like actually kind of explore like the ramifications of Kira's existence. Like
Yeah.
they start talking about how like wars have ended, crime is down, and all this. But then
Yep.
you also see people like kids threatening to
Yeah.
put other people's
Terrorizing.
names online for bullying them. Like, does being a bully earn you the death penalty?
No,
What
no.
was that? If you're movie Bob Roman, that's what
My
made me think
God,
of that.
my God,
That's where
That
Magneto was right. Anyway, sorry, moving on.
that's another question that we'll ask later. But there's some other things
was
I can
Light
sort of get
Yagami
into.
right?
Oh no.
Well, not just that, but I'll save the question for later. In and of
Okay.
itself, like it's a very fascinating series because it and like I said, the whole reason that this show pops off is the fact that you have both L and Light at the same time, and they're both like fascinatingly complex characters with their own quirks and different sort of behaviors. And I would almost say that L even looks a whole lot more the villain than Light does and kind of behaves a bit like a villain at times as well, with how he can be super distrustful and very manipulative and like go behind people's backs and all that. But
Yeah,
by and far, it's an interesting show to see this whole story from the perspective of the villain. And
yeah,
because of
and
that, I think you do get a lot of really good tension. This series does like nails the suspense and tension with a lot of things.
yeah,
Like just
and
like animation, the sound cues, the overall writing, it really builds to the head with every single one of those things, and it almost always pays off very well.
and I'm not used to animes or even like entertainment really kind of in general. like right off of the bat, the protagonist is ultimately the villain. I'm not really used to that, so that's kind of something that's like different for me, and it's something that I find to be kind of cool because like that's something that I'm not used to. Because like even with like Attack on Titan, Aaron Yeager didn't like at first know that like he was gonna do what he was going to do. Like he had to find that out and everything got built up. No. As soon as Death Note starts, you know that Light is the ultimate villain. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I've seen because I delve into what like people say, and there are some people that say that Ryuk kind of corrupted him, but kind of like to your point earlier, Light was always the way that he was. He just needed that one singular event to like spark what he was gonna do.
He kind of always had that I am above these fools kind of mentality and air about him. He may have never
Yeah.
said it because he knew better than to say things like that because, he's smart and very calculated in everything he does. He's very willing
Yeah.
to use people and knows that if he's nice to them, he can get them to do what he wants. But I do not think Ryuk did anything to corrupt Light. The Light's corruption, his fall into darkness effectively happens the moment his narcissism mingles with the power of a god.
Yeah. And I think that Ryuk ooh, no, I actually didn't see that. But so I think that what makes Ryuk interesting is that he's kind of just along for the ride, but you can kind of see over time that like he's not like allowed to interfere, but he still will kind of like he's like a fascinating case because he seems to not care what happens to Light, but then like at the same time he does. So
He
it's just kind
helps.
of
Well, it's a lot like I think
If you're
Ryuk is almost a really good analogy for the audience in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Because you effectively like don't care what happens to Light, but you want him to be around because you find it entertaining. Like
yes, that's all he's
this
after is the entertainment.
Ryuk is literally here just to watch the chaos unfold. He's bored of the Shinigami world. And that's the only reason he does the things he does, because he thinks it might provide a little bit of entertainment for him.
That illustrates how malevolent most of the Shinigami are, and how rare it is for, those ones that would interfere with the process to begin with, So it's one of those things where you get Ryuk as a dichotomy to that, because he'll help, but it's just to, further the entertainment, right? He doesn't actually step in. I mean, he doesn't care for Light. Otherwise, he would have taken action at the end and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Pilgrim, you shouldn't be making those kinds of jokes in my chat.
Whoa.
Bruh, relax. Nah, but
I appreciate the dark humor. It's really fucking funny, but at some point this is gonna come back around to bite me in the ass. I'm sure of it. Your mods are making KYS jokes in the chat. What are you doing? It's not my fault he's suicidal. That's how I found him. I picked him up out of his box on the street corner like that. I don't know what you're talking about.
My God. So, Muffler, what do you want to ask me about Misa?
Oh, dude. Okay, yeah. So, smash or pass, man. Because you're into the goth chicks, and she's yandere as fuck.
Hold on.
I'm like,
this is Roman every time he sees her.
Don't get a boner. Don't get a boner.
So, look, here's the thing, bro. I got my preferences, but dog, Misa. Like, bro.
It's a good question, man.
I would be an idiot to turn that down. I'm smashing.
All right. High five, brother. That's what I'm talking about.
Here's the thing: is I've listened to people talk about like Death Note, and they say like Misa is annoying. I'm just like, no, I think she's a pretty endearing character.
Yeah.
Outside of her being like a bit of a psychopath in and of herself, she's a better person than Light Yagami. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
If
like she's a whole lot better of a person than Light Yagami because all
If
she's
any
trying
characters-
to do is win the attention of this guy she loves, and he literally has like someone who is willing to do all this crazy stuff, sacrifice their life for him, and he's so much of a fucking narcissistic sociopath asshole that he's like, yeah, just cut your life in half a second time. Go ahead, do it. I need
Yeah.
to talk. Come on, go make the deal. She just like tries to serve him a cup of tea, and he's like slapping the cup out of her hand and freaking the fuck out. And
It's been a couple months since I watched it, but did they ever say why like Misa loved him? Like why?
because her parents were killed in a break-in.
Yep.
So basically one of her stalkers broke into her house, and the
Yep.
killer's
Yeah.
trial dragged on, and there
Yep.
was a rumor circulating
I
that he might
remember
have been falsely accused, and then Kira killed him.
Yep. Yeah.
So she was
Yep.
appreciative of the fact that Kira delivered justice that may not have been given to her family.
And the fact that Light, like I think all of us would. I mean, not like the super devotion part where like the girl will be willing to do anything for you, but I think we all would like to have a Misa. Like, I mean, just someone who is loyal and that you wouldn't switch up. Like, you would have like a built-in perfect woman to just be like by your side. We all need to have a Misa, bro. Like,
Yeah.
Just
But-
to quickly
Yeah.
talk about this. Yeah, this is. I think you can pretty easily infer from the ending credits of the series what she does, given her state of
Yeah.
mind, everything that had transpired. I actually like the kind of vagueness of it because it ends in a very sort of like tragic way, where if you want to think about it, really the only thing Light ever did was destroy people's lives.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Especially
Yeah.
the lives of those closest to him.
Yes. Because,
He
dude,
looked-
even his mom, I remember that shot of his mom just sitting there, just crying at the table.
Yeah, no, like
Oh
let me
my God,
specify.
dude.
If not for him, like his sister was basically like traumatized and like couldn't like do anything on her own after the kidnapping. That was part I skimmed. I don't exactly know how brutal they were to her, but it just seemed like they kind of like she was just kind of traumatized from the abduction and all that. I don't know.
Actually,
if they,
this kind of
I don't.
this kinda makes
I
me-
would assume that. I mean, given the nature of the people involved, that there's probably some stuff done to her.
so this
um,
kind of makes me think about something.
And
So-
Light is basically responsible for that situation. His father's death.
Yep.
All of Misa's suffering after meeting him, basically.
I forget the other
Mhm.
woman's name too, but like everything horrible that happened to her as well,
Takeda, I believe.
Yeah,
her name was.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's right. Yeah.
The chick he was 2-timing with in the background.
But-
Like he's literally responsible for so much destruction. It almost comes to it almost like makes you like question like, was what he did even worth it?
So here's a fun question for you guys: Is Light Yagami worse than Eren Yeager?
Yes, because he's more intelligent. And
I
mean-
would say yes, because Eren Yeager did everything he did because he wanted his friends to live long lives. He wanted the people close to him to have had to be able to live out their lives in peace. He didn't care what it meant for him. Light Yagami did all of this in this story specifically for himself. So
Yeah,
Light did the exact same thing Eren did, but for a completely different motive.
yeah, true. Because like I was kind of thinking about that, like, because Light might have killed like less people, but Light did it for like a completely different reason than what Eren did it for. And I think from what I've seen so far, not in terms of writing, but in terms of who they are as characters, Light might be the worst anime protagonist that I have met so far. And
I would say he's the most evil, not the worst, because I think he's a great protagonist.
No, like
just insofar as like the quality of his writing and
I'm saying that
how much
he is,
value he
like,
brings to the series. Insofar as morals and like how good he is, yes, he is the worst protagonist in those regards out of a lot of the things that I've seen.
I'm saying that he is the most evil
I don't
protagonist
think
that I
I
have
can.
met.
I don't think I can name someone even as close to being as evil as Light Yagami is, who is a protagonist. Who is a protagonist? I
Yeah, 'cause
really have to think.
I think we
Because
talked about
even
this.
with like Ainz Ul Gon, who is another
That's the only
villain,
other one I was thinking of. But yeah,
he still
fumble
doesn't
fucks
come. He
through
still
it.
doesn't come close in terms
Yeah.
of evil, because a lot of things that Ainz will end up doing, he'll also like balance it out by like doing other things that you're generally like, okay, like he's not purely evil.
Yeah,
Like
he's not intentionally doing bad shit either. I mean, sometimes anyway. Yeah,
there's some like interesting things going on with his character. Like there's a lot of good he does, but but there are some pretty majorly evil things. Light, it's just like he's doing all this for his own self satisfaction because he believes himself a god.
There's one that I've not watched yet that a friend keeps harping on me really bad about, and it's called Monster. And I'm pretty sure that the protagonist is not the evil character, or is not the main character in that show. I think it's the doctor that makes Monster, but I'm not for sure. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, you're talking about Johan, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that I don't think the main character of that is the evil character. It's the doctor that makes him, and then he's trying to solve that. So it's close, but not quite.
The premise is basically this doctor has a choice to save a kid or like a high-ranking politician, and he chooses to save the kid, only for the kid to become a serial killer.
Yep.
Like a Light Yagami kind of serial killer, which is another interesting question I was thinking of. If you put Light and Johan together versus L and Batman.
Well, actually, that's kind of a
I
funny
haven't read it. I don't know enough about Monster to actually like sit here and talk about it. That's why I wouldn't raise the question seriously. But it's one of those things where I'm just like, it seems like a really fun kind of thought experiment.
So actually, Roland and I talked about this on our pod like 5 months ago. Is there any fictional character that could catch Kira?
I think Batman actually would be able to.
Yeah, I think so. Unless Light found out that Batman was Bruce Wayne. Then
I think the only way that would happen is if Light made the deal for the Shinigami eyes,
which he was too arrogant to do.
Yes. Here's the thing is there's a lot of stuff about this, and I think Batman's investigation would mostly fly under the radar as far as that goes until he was right on top of Kira.
The other thing too,
the other thing that Batman benefits from too, that L didn't have, is Batman understands that supernatural things are real. That was one of the big hindering factors in L's whole investigation, is he did not believe in supernatural elements. He completely ruled them out.
Another thing to attack this from is the fact that Batman is a vigilante and he's not bound by law when it comes to like capturing people and stuff like that. So he may be able to take extrajudicial action where L had to be absolutely certain and have evidence of it like concretely ahead of time, where Batman can just use his deduction skills, be on the same level as L and be like, okay, well, it's obviously got to be this person, even though I don't have the evidence at the moment. I can try to like control the situation, basically, where L wasn't able to do that.
So, like, the thing that I'm wondering is, though, like, if Light found out that Batman was investigating him, if he wrote just Batman in the Death Note, it wouldn't, like, do anything to him, right? It wouldn't kill
I don't think
Batman.
so, because I think it has to be the person's actual name, not who they identify as.
But Bruce Wayne, in his head, thinks of himself as Batman. So if Light writes Batman, would that kill Bruce Wayne?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I don't think that would be the case.
Okay.
Are we talking like legal names too? What if somebody changes their legal name? You know, there's some weird.
Well, here's the thing: is
Yeah.
I guarantee you that Light they don't address this, but I guarantee you that Light used people's names who were married. That would have been their legal name, not the name that they were born with, right?
Yep.
So I think it would have to be their legal name, and I don't think Batman is his legal name.
No. So yeah, no. I just was thinking about that because like it's kind of like an age-old question. I saw like, could anybody catch Kira? And I think that like Batman could, but I don't think that there's like any. I don't think that there's anyone else that really could catch him, except for if you guys want to really delve into it, maybe the Scooby Gang, because Light would not be able to kill Scooby because the Death Note cannot kill animals, right? So if
People.
Scooby finds Kira, then Scooby Doo would be able to stop Kira.
That's the guy, Shaggy, or whatever, right? Yeah, that's some shit.
Murderack, Froggy.
But like, other than them, I don't think there's anyone like, Marcel said Detective Conan. So I don't know who that is, but
it's like anime's version of Sherlock Holmes, pretty much.
Yeah.
could Detective Conan stop Kira? Do you guys know, or
I wouldn't know. I haven't seen the series. All I know is it's been running for almost as long as One Piece.
Yes.
seriously?
Yes.
Ooh. Okay. So you guys don't think that there's anyone else that could like stop him besides like Batman, and then like obviously like the most competent person to stop him is probably L. But like, is there no one else in fiction, like whether it be in like anime or movies or TV shows, that y'all see possibly finding out who Kira is and then stopping him?
I don't know. It's a really interesting question. I mean, if Roland were here, he'd immediately start shouting about Sosuke Aizen.
It would have to be somebody that's not human, like you, because then they can't be killed by the Death Note. So you could have any type of anime protagonist or any anime character that would be sufficiently intelligent, that is like paranormal in origin, something along those lines, or hell, the Dragon Ball characters, they ain't humans, all right? They're aliens and shit. So you can have it that way too. So I could see that working. I could see a character that's already dead for some reason, like you can't stop the heart of somebody that's already dead. They've come back. Maybe they're like a damn vampire or something. I don't know. Like you could have anything like that. Like, I don't know. It's a little broad, but I mean, they could just take sufficient amount of time, or time travelers too. Like I was thinking about that a little bit, but that'd be kind of dicey. I don't know. It depends.
I mean, you could include people who have like a time loop ability, like Return by Death, in that as well. Like basically someone who, so like the main character of Summertime Rendering or Subaru Natsuki would eventually catch up with them, just because there's nothing that Light can actually do about those powers. Correct. Because the moment they die, they go back in time with all of the information they've already gained. So basically,
that's badass.
every time they fail, they get closer and closer to catching a Light.
That's badass.
Dark Souls style.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's actually really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. They could also probably capture it.
And to be fair, it's not like Subaru Natsuki hasn't dealt with shit like this in his lifetime.
Yes.
I will just exclude the whole shaman arc.
Before we move on to whatever Crimson's got next, if you guys don't mind, have either of you two seen the live action Death Note movie?
No, I've only watched the trailer.
Are we talking about the American Death Note or
the Netflix one?
I've seen clips and it looks.
How crazy is it that Willem Dafoe is Ryuk?
No.
Willem Dafoe is perfect. All right, but Light is trash. 100%, man. He's horrible.
Don't they call him Light Turner in that?
I think so.
Yes. Like him freaking out and stuff too. Like he is such a, like the worst kind of an emo. Like I hate that character, like the way he's
The
depicted.
worst type of an emo.
Well, because yeah, like you can't lump everybody together, but like on a spectrum, right? The emo spectrum, Light Turner is horrible. Okay, like bad, worse than Bully Parker or whatever from fucking
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3. And
Yeah.
shit, okay,
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
anyway,
I was just asking if if either of you two had seen the live action Death Note, because when I found out that Willem Dafoe was Ryuk, I was like, I want to put this into my list of like bad movies to watch, because that casting choice sounds perfect, but like everything else sounds completely terrible. So
have
I
you
might
watched the
watch it.
trailers?
Yeah, I've seen
He-
like the trailers and I've seen some clips
Here's
of it.
generally the thing that you want to know about anime live action adaptations. Almost none of them are good. They're the two that I hear most consistently praised are One Piece and
Yep.
Rurouni Kenshin. Those are
Yeah.
the only two anime live action adaptations I have ever seen get any amount of praise. I mean, it's a miracle that they continue to do this in the West, especially after the whole Kakagurui thing that happened.
That's getting
Can't-
like an extra season or two, man. Like,
Oh,
that
can't
was
they
wait for
also
the news.
renamed, like, instead of going with like the Japanese
Bet.
name that sounds unique and cool, yeah, they called it Bet.
I can't
Which
wait for
if I had to bet, I would assume that Kakegurui has something to do with gambling or whatever.
this
Yeah.
won't matter as much to Muffler, but Crimson, I can't wait for the live action Naruto show. That one is gonna be fun. That one's gonna be fun.
Silence, you glorified wad of trash, or I'll squash you like a roach!
Yeah, to destroy,
Yeah.
watch it, you know.
That was correct. So the term Kakegurui in Japanese literally means a compulsive gambler.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
like the
so
anime, and yeah, I've heard horrible things about that. I even watched somebody's extensive review of the series, and I was very disappointed. But sorry, continue.
I have one
No.
friend of the channel who actually watched the first episode of that and then dropped it and said it was horrid.
I was just gonna say that, like, I don't know like what genius decided that Attack on Titan needed like a live action movie. Like like why? For what? And then like the Titans look like in like the show, the Titans are like the perfect kind of creepy. In like the live action movie, they're just plain flat out creepy. Like not even like they're like
We're getting a little off
unnecessarily
topic
creepy.
from the Death Note
Right.
thing, and I do want to keep it sort of
Right.
focused on that. So we've done
Right.
one of my big debates around whether Light is a good person or not. And now here's the other one that I kind of hinted at that I was saving
Yeah.
for later in the stream. So, is there a name that you guys would write down in the Death Note? And I'm going to make it more interesting. We're going to exclude the obvious choices of like some like convicted like cannibal serial killer or something like that, okay? Like is there a case where you think you can justify writing someone's name that maybe people
Can
might
this
not think
person
of?
be alive or dead? Or like do
They have to be alive right now.
Chris Watts. Chris Watts or wait, I get one name.
He said one.
I said
Chris Watts.
I said
Unless you want to like make a list and become Light Yagami or something, man. Come on now. Keep
Well,
that shit
see-
limited.
see, because look, I don't know if I would choose Chris Watts.
it's not
or
limited to
Casey
one
Anthony.
name, but I just said one name like as because I don't have someone off the top of my head that I would want
Chris
to kill.
Watts is
It's
fine.
just as simple as that. Like the most I know of is Gorilla Mar is correct. FBI enters the chat.
if you guys care enough to, you guys will understand why I chose the name of Chris Watts. He is the first person that I would write and I would sleep better at night knowing that he's not on Earth anymore. So I would not lose a wink of sleep knowing that he was dead. He is one of the most evilest dudes that has ever walked on the face of this earth. So
What the fuck did he do? Steal $10 from you or something?
no, he cheated on his wife, and she was pregnant, and he didn't want to be with her anymore, so he strangled her, and then he strangled his two daughters, and then he put them into an oil tanker, and then
I
he
remember this story now. Yeah, you know what?
and
This dude's pretty fucking vile. Yeah, this is a
and then he buried her and then tried to act like they were taken, and then like lied
Oh,
to the cops and tried to make it pretend that like they went missing. Nah, bro. I I I'm writing him down instantly. 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 Muffler?
yeah. I genuinely do
I
not
mean,
have like a name that I would write in the book. I have people I hate, and they're mostly just scammers like Logan Paul, Sam Bankman-Fried, people like that I think are scum because they steal money from people and scam them out of like all their shit. But I don't think that anything they've done deserves a death penalty for it.
yeah, correct. I mean, I've got one name I could use, but the thing is that like, despite however personally bad this person has done thing, like to me and stuff like that, it doesn't matter. Like it's one of those things, like you live long enough, it's okay. Like you just move on with your life. Like I don't want to be in the same room as this person. Like I wouldn't want to be in the same room as like Manson or any other serial killer or that horrible fuck. But the thing is that I wouldn't kill them either. I mean, unless they're actively trying to hurt somebody, and I'm witnessing it, I could try to stop them, but like I'm not gonna just. Yeah, no, man, I'm good. Because then
Using the death note as
me,
self-defense is
that's-
about the only reason I would ever use it.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
ask this because we have found Kira.
Yep.
Well, that's funny because my audio avatar is Ryuk, so
Close enough. I'm on
I
to you.
The Koreans did it better.
You'll never ever catch me, L. Never in a million years. Also, why'd you pick that picture of L? He looks so stoned in that picture.
Because it was the goofiest fucking picture of him that I could find. Like, there are so many goofy pictures of him, but it's so much goofier when he's sitting there smiling. I don't know why. Because he's always sitting like an autist in his chair, and he holds everything like this.
Yes, he's a weaponized autist in action. Okay,
He is
like
he is one of the goofiest dudes that I have like ever seen. In terms of pure presence, he just like made me laugh every time that like not so much him talking, but like the way that he carried himself was like really funny. Like that would get smiles
The
out of me.
funniest part is like he comes across as like this huge walking contradiction. Like he looks like he never goes outside, but like and all his throwdowns with fucking light, it always ends in a tie. He's really good at sports. He acts like a fucking dumbass at times, but and like is obsessed with like some like little sweets and stuff. But he's super intelligent and can be really ruthless as well. It's like he is a walking contradiction. That's another thing, like to kind of loop back to like the whole like conversation on that in a bit. But well, yeah, I mean the dude doxed himself by accident. So
Pilgrim, that is.
Let's be honest. Roman would accidentally start taking notes in the Death Note for like a class or something.
No, I would write my lyrics down in there. That's why I would get caught. I would just be writing songs in there. People would be like, bro,
The Shinigami would be like, you don't need a Death Note. This will kill people just if they listen to it.
how many damn pages does Death Note have, even, man? Like, because like
yeah, wait a second. How
Like,
many
that's
pages
a-
are in
I
a
just I just assume that there's like a theoretical infinite number of pages because it's a supernatural object.
you would think that, but they don't ever express it. And the fact, oh well, we've tore out these pages and stuff, and we knew
Mhm.
exactly when he would. Anyway, yeah, it gets into it. And I always had that question. That's funny
Yeah, it's I don't know.
because those old
I don't know.
pages don't go
Maybe
away.
it's like a file saving system to where like the earliest pages get deleted after a certain point, and new ones just sort of pop up in the back.
Yeah, because like, why would you want to keep the early pages?
But here's
Like,
the thing, though. Like, it still had record of ones that were torn out too. So, like, how long would that record be? Like, when it relinquishes, goes to somebody else, maybe, or I don't know, man. I got questions. All right,
There's some logic around that
Yeah.
I feel like definitely could be fun to explore. But yeah,
Um,
like just like Light or sorry, L being a goofy bastard at times made the show so much more fun because amidst all the like tension and uh I don't know, like downcast tone of the series of like this guy basically trying to get away with a bunch of murders. Um L was like kind of a point of comedy. A little bit like Misa, but Misa's was more like dumb comedy to where it was just like her being kind of a ditz. That was
Yeah.
the funny part. With L, it was a lot of things about him. He just kind of had a sense of humor of his own that was enjoyable, and it brought a little bit of levity to an otherwise pretty dark and downcast series that I liked. And
so
that's why like him sort of just being like a bit like childish and goofy like that was a good contrast to Light in and of himself, because Light always seems to take himself seriously, conduct himself properly. He is like the perfect person, to match his god complex.
So actually, that's something that I wanted to actually ask y'all because everyone always seems to be much more informed than me when it comes to like behind the scenes of things. So, did the people that made Death Note did the, like obviously this would have had to have happened in like the manga. Why do they take out L like 2/3 into the show? That's so stupid. Like like what was the point of getting rid of the first L just to spoilers just to have a second one who was like less cool?
I think the author might have inherited a little bit of his main character's god complex. And thought it would be like, I can do this really like brilliant play to hype up my main character before his downfall. I don't think it was the greatest move. While it was cool, it was brilliantly written. It was a terrible decision insofar as the narrative is concerned, because L was one of the two pillars holding this whole series up. And once he was gone, you can tell the series became drastically less interesting. Nair or N, whatever you want to call him, was not nearly as interesting as L.
Yeah, he felt like a lesser version of him, and also you didn't have that 20 something episodes of build up where you got attached to the character as well. So like he was coming in fresh as like a facade, basically, like a lesser version of L. And then I was not super impressed with the other character either. I think it was not Meek, but like
Mikhail.
Mikhail.
His name was
Mellow.
they called him Mellow. So
Yeah.
it was L, M, and N. Which, let's just think about this. This kind of suggests that L wasn't even the original in his position.
Yes.
Which is kind of very, very interesting.
It's creepy because of the orphanage system that they all came out of and stuff like that, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there on me. I mean, it's some
Either
weird
way,
stuff. Yeah.
This is one of the big fatal flaws I think this series has. It does end about how you would expect, and in a good fashion, honestly. I feel like Light's story was always bound to be sort of tragic, like a fall from grace, kind of like Hamlet in a way. But yeah, I do agree. That final confrontation, it would have been so much better for like, I don't know, it would have been so much better a series if you had somehow done the gotten L to be a part of the rest of it rather than killing him off. I don't know. There's probably some way you could have done it where he faked his death or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
not kill him off like for real. Because once he like I could have sat through 12 of the next 13 episodes if in the final episode, like he just comes back and he's just like,
Pilgrim, Hamlet's like fucking centuries old. Fuck off. I don't care if I spoil it for you at this point. If you didn't read that shit in your high school literature classes, what the fuck are you doing?
I literally had to read
That's
that.
the to be or not to be, right? That is the question, right? That's Hamlet.
I'm not sure.
I think so.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I literally had to. I literally had to read that in like 11th grade. No, but I could have even sat through like M and I could have sat through N. Like if L had been in the final episode as a twist that he had faked his own death, then the ending of the series wouldn't have been as because like while I still liked it, I was like, there's something missing here. And if he had faked his own death, I would have been like, okay, so that was kind of a cool way to end it, and that was their plan the whole time. It felt to me like the person that wrote the manga kind of ran out of what they wanted to do when it came to the series. Unless that was a choice made by the people that made the show. I don't know. I don't know if L dies that early in the manga. I'm not sure. But either way, it was a really dumb choice. It might work better in a manga, but it doesn't work as like, an anime.
No, I don't. I don't
He
think it
already
was a good
has-
decision for the show because this whole thing, like I said, it really relies on that the two characters, Light and L, going up against each other, and that's why I think it should have been L to be the one to catch Kira in the end because it would have been a satisfying thing to have this whole battle of minds and then have L come out on top and catch the villain. He was a much better character than anyone else. Those two were the only like truly interesting characters throughout this whole thing. They were the thing that everyone had their eyes on. Like you don't really pay attention to Light's dad or I mean Misa is there, but she's really only there as like the ride or die girl to get Light out of a pinch in a couple of cases.
To be used. But yeah, no. But here's the thing too, though. Like the author already had the perfect vehicle. The way the story ended, okay, he could use that same premise, all right, and have L be the one to change out a notebook or whatever and give him the false sense of security. Oh, whoever's going to write L's name in the book or whatever, fake his own death as part of that, and then come back through later on and save the day or something, right? So
well,
like here's
the thing though is the one thing I did really like was that Light manipulated Rem into doing all of this for him. So that's who ended up writing all of this stuff. You basically would have had to do something where L, like the real L, never actually met the Shinigami. That would effectively be what you would have to do.
Do you think
which
that
would
they
be a difficult thing to do, but it would be an interesting twist to where like
I think they could have written
at
around
some point, L swaps out for like a doppelganger or something, and that's who ends up getting killed because he suspects that Light he suspects that Light is Kira still, and decides he doesn't want to be too terribly close to him just in case there's something that goes wrong. So he sort of puts that extra barrier up, and then his doppelganger dies and all that, and he's off in the background, like, okay, so now I just have to make some more observations and stuff, and
that would have been so much better. And yeah, it would have been hard because he wouldn't have met the Shinigami, but I feel like they could have written around that. It just feels like after L dies, it feels like the show completely changes. Like I won't say it's boring, but like the tenseness and the on the edge of your seat kind of just dies out for me after that. It's kind of just like a run of the mill type of an anime.
Well, yeah, because N doesn't have the same sort of like feeling of intellect. He almost feels like I'll say Gary Stu as compared to what L did, because N comes in and basically inherits everything that L
Yeah.
had already established. So he
Mhm.
actually didn't do much in terms of like solving the case. All he did was catch light. That's all he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It might have like presented the author of the series a harder way to finish the story overall, but he should have kept Light alive.
I feel
No,
like there
sorry,
are
not
a bunch
not
of
Light.
ways they could have done
L.
this, but I feel like as spectacularly as it was written and in character as it was for Light to manipulate Rem into killing L,
Mm-hmm.
it was a bad decision for the story because your last third really suffers because of that decision.
It might flow better in the manga. I'm not
It's
sure,
like
but
you're running a race basically and you're doing flawlessly, and then you decide to cut off your left foot.
yeah. Yeah, like it it might have flowed better
You can still
in
finish,
the
but it's
manga.
not going to be very pretty.
So that choice might have flowed better in the manga, but it doesn't work for a TV show. I feel
Yeah,
like.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I don't know because narrative. I'm talking specifically about the narrative here.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
not just like the TV show. As far as writing goes, I feel like it was a terrible writing decision because your 2 points of focus are those 2 characters. That's what
Yeah.
makes this whole thing like really pop. Is
Yeah.
the 2 intelligent people going at it, playing mind games, trying to out the other.
I would say that you're not wrong on that, but again, like if my complaints with M and N are the fact that again they're not as well established. To your point, you know, the N is given like all of L's work, all right, that he's already accomplished and stuff. So it doesn't feel like anything is earned for them. But if you extended the story out, gave them more time to breathe and develop as characters and then interact and build the tension back up, I think that it would just have like a small dip in quality, but once you reestablish with these new characters, it would be okay. But there'd be like a, you know, there would still be a soft spot. Don't get it twisted, but it would be a lot better overall, I would say.
The Pilgrim basically has the point that I was thinking of is it would have been a great ending if like they had kept L in the story up to the end and then he sacrifices himself as basically bait to out Light as Kira.
I could see
That
that.
would have been probably a really fantastic ending if you ask me.
Yes.
But
yes. That's so much better. That is so much better.
It's more poetic.
That's
So yeah.
the like, and I know that they can't.
it would
back.
also make the earlier question that Pilgrim posed. Do you think Light L actually liked Light, or was it just another tactic? It would make it a whole lot more interesting in that regard too.
Yeah, because I feel like L's death was just like, you know, premature. Like not just like, I know that we're kind of beating a dead horse, but like it just like they could have done so much more with it, and that's what stops this anime from being in like my top 3 favorites. And it like, if I take the first 20 episodes, it's in my top 3 favorites. But then if I have the whole series as a whole, it's like not really up there because it kind of like dips. Whereas, say what you want about Attack on Titan, the quality never ever dips, and they don't really make a whole lot of stupid narrative choices compared to what Death Note did. And Death Notes is a lot more consequential because you literally killed off like one half of kind of like what Crimson said, the pillar. And so once you get rid of that, it's like if in Naruto you like kill off Sasuke before, you know, Shippuden, you just like lose everything.
You lose half the
like
driving force of the series. Yeah.
Correct.
right, yeah.
There are ways to do stuff like that, but with the way that this story is structured, or like with the way Naruto is structured currently and the way Death Note is structured currently, you do need those characters around. You can't just kill them off willy nilly.
Yep.
Like the
Yeah.
reason you can get away with Attack on Titan, like killing Erwin, is because, well, it's not like him being around is critical to the enjoyment of the series. There's still a lot of other elements that are needed. This Death Note is a very character-driven story that centers almost entirely around the actions of L and Kira, or Light. Without, it's basically like I said, you're running a race and you cut your left foot off. You can still finish, but it ain't going to be pretty.
Yeah, and it just kind of like you guys can feel free to disagree with me, and that's why we're here. But it doesn't feel the same with N being like the one to catch Light. It doesn't feel earned. Whereas if it had been L, it would have felt earned.
Gary
If that
Stu,
makes
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of why I use that.
Yeah.
Maybe the author had like a really Eastern mindset, obviously, because Japanese writing the story and stuff. But the thing is, like, maybe we're all looking at it a little bit differently because, L or Light wins in the end, right? Like he does. He has like 5 or 6 years of reign over the earth and stuff, and influence on pushing his agenda, and is effectively a god for that period of time. But then it's like a cosmic retribution, karmic, force of nature. You have this next generation, this other group of people come in and take care of what their predecessor couldn't. So maybe there is like an Eastern mindset to it. I don't think that it's a strong storytelling wise, and I agree with you guys on that. But I could see maybe there being some motivations on why he did it the way he did it.
Interesting. I don't think it's just an Eastern thing, because I brought up Hamlet earlier. It's very similar in a way to that, because basically Hamlet goes and kills the king to become king, if I remember correctly, and then it's one of the younger members of the nobility who catches on to this and like learns of the plot and like the betrayal and all that, and is the one to overthrow Hamlet. So it's kind of an established thing throughout all of fiction to have something like that happen.
Sure.
In this case, though, I don't think it plays out very well, because the whole story is kind of centered, like it kind of finds its center around those two. It's not like Hamlet finds its center around the dynamic between the king and Hamlet. It's actually fairly centered around Hamlet and his wife and their the consequences of keeping their secret of having killed the king.
Makes sense. Yep.
You're not ripping that piece out, because that the consequences only come to the both of them at the end. So it is satisfying in that way. Death Note is basically like, I don't know, it's you ripped out the like half of what made it good right in the middle of it. Well, not right in the middle, like 2/3 of the way through it.
Yeah, like not that they could have, but if they had like ended it like right when L died and just like kind of just left it there, kind of as like a what if this happened or what if that happened? Like honestly, thinking about it, I would have rather just been left on a cliffhanger than getting the ending that we got. Kinda, sort of. That's
No, I would have not liked a cliffhanger like that. It would have annoyed me to think that someone like Light got away. Really, though, as far as like endings go, this is one of the like points that just kind of like came to mind. Is I thought it was a really like, I don't want to say bittersweet ending, but it was kind of like sad and depressing. But like at the same time, you knew that like the villain had lost. All I really felt at the end of this was like, I just felt bad for everyone who around Light, who had to like basically suffer the consequences of his actions, especially like his mother.
Dude, yeah.
Like that, like thinking about that kind of like really hurt. I was just like, her husband died. Her daughter is basically like dependent on her for the rest of her life. And
her son's like the spawn of Satan.
Her son is responsible for all of it and much more heinous stuff. Like like everything
that would break
is
her.
just gone.
I will say, go ahead.
No, like I was just gonna say, like kind of like like to piggyback off of Crimson's point, it's like not that I would ever do it, but like just thinking about like if I was like say that I was light, like thinking about it from like my own mother's shoes, like she wouldn't be able to handle that. So I couldn't even imagine what Light's mom's going through. Honestly, she's the one that I feel the most sorry for out of anybody.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
do feel kind of sorry for Misa, but she made her own bed in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was
Like
not innocent.
she wasn't innocent, but she really just wanted this guy's love, and in the end, it cost her everything. Like
Muffler,
she had
what
a,
did
she
you
had a
want to say?
tragic ending because of Light.
Oh, I was just gonna say that like the ending was satisfying in one aspect to see Light lose it completely and then just start acting like a groveling mess almost. Just like him like losing control over the situation and him just being completely emasculated at the end was hilarious. I found a lot of joy in seeing the downfall before he ultimately died and stuff. Like I felt that was
Mhm.
pretty awesome in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I mean, it. Yeah, I agree with it. What everything you guys are saying as far as uh, the emotional weight and impact on everything. Yeah, I mean, it's all about the people that he caused pain and suffering throughout the entire process. So yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I
yeah,
could
and
look,
it kind
I could never do something like this, just because, like, I don't know, it's hard to imagine. I don't have the delusions of grandeur that this guy has. Like, so like I would never even like consider like touching the fucking notebook after reading those rules. I'd be like,
yeah.
this is a dangerous thing. It would go in a box in my fucking closet, and I'd make sure no one ever saw it.
Well, what do you think about the other thing too, as far as like what ultimately happens to his soul? Basically, it's like, oh well, it's just into nothingness. Basically, like you don't get to have an afterlife or anything like that. Because I think I remember Ryuk hearing that towards the start. It's like, oh well, there is no you know no heaven or hell for you anymore. You're just going to be gone, type of
yeah,
thing.
like
Yeah,
that.
I thought he was going to become a Shinigami. Honestly, I thought
that's
that
what I
was
thought too,
Yeah, same,
and that would have
same.
been cool actually, but a
Like
reward.
that, like that is actually kind of a that's kind of a thing too. And I don't want to speak for like either of you two, but as someone who is a devout, like religious person, kind of thinking about it in like that sense, it like just thinking about like being in light shoes, that would weigh on me too, knowing that like there's no heaven, there's no hell. Like you're just in a void after you die. There is like nothing. There is nothing. So I'm not saying that like obviously what he was doing was wrong, and obviously he's a narcissist and shit like that. But do you guys ever think that there was ever a moment where he might have thought like, I kind of don't want to be in the void, like I want to go to either heaven or hell, so like maybe I should stop this?
The problem is he wasn't told about it until after he already used the book, and at
That's
that point
true. That's true.
he was done and dusted. So yep.
Yeah, that's true. And also, his fate by that point was, irreversible anyway. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
damn.
And the thing is like it's kind of interesting the way they ended it, like showing him at like the beginning of the series and how he was at the end of the series, sort of like juxtaposing those two things. Um, Even in that scene, it kind of like shows like the flashback. Like Light never like really seems to like look back on his life and wonder where he went wrong or like how things like how things got that bad. It's just sort of like he's convinced to the end that he's a god.
Yep.
Because I don't think that he thinks that he ever was wrong. Like he just thinks that, kind of like what you said, that he's a god, and that I don't think that he ever really thought he was ever actually going to get like really fully caught. I think
No,
that
I don't think he ever believed for a second that he would lose.
yeah, and then kind of like to Muffer's point, like it's so satisfying once he actually does lose.
You
Like,
can't do this to me. Yeah, no, it's great.
yeah,
The
yeah,
animation on that scene was great as well. Just like
yeah,
it really reminded me of like the one of the final scenes of Wolf's Brigade, where like they have the inspector cornered in the sewers and they just light him up with a machine gun. It's great. It's a really well animated scene. And I don't know. Maybe we'll do a show on that at some point. But that's a movie. It's really easy to watch. So
So I actually wanted to ask you guys, because we like touched on this when we did Attack on Titan. I think we talked about it a little bit when we did Cowboy Bebop. But do you guys like the music on this show? Because I think the music is actually pretty good. It's not like Attack on Titan good, but like it's still pretty solid though.
I think you're rarely going to find a soundtrack that's as good as Attack on Titan. Those are pretty unique.
Yeah.
You got like Cowboy Bebop and Freerin are really good soundtracks on the same level. This one is good for the show, but it's not too good to the point where I think that you gotta, man, why you gotta do this? This is probably a terrible time to say this, but there is a non-zero chance that one of my some of my relatives see this stream, so.
Sorry. I was gonna say Kensuke Ushio. Hey, you know what I'm saying, right?
I don't even remember where I was going with this. What were we talking about?
We're talking
The
about
music.
soundtracks, and so I had to grab
okay.
my
That's where we
record.
were.
Jeez,
I
man.
like the
Sorry.
soundtrack for this series, but it is not something I would ever listen to in and of itself. And
Yeah.
that is one of the things that I do want to say about like a soundtrack is if it is truly exceptional, you can listen to it in and of itself, and not just to like have it in the context of the show. Death Notes is good within the context of the show, but like stuff like Freerin, Attack on Titan, Cowboy Bebop, those are soundtracks you can just listen to on like a drive through the country or something like that, and they're still good.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'll put on even like songs from Naruto, songs from like Dragon Ball, but I'll play stuff from Attack on Titan and like Cowboy Bebop. But as much as I like it, kind of to your point, Crimson, I'm not gonna like if I'm going on like a car drive or if I'm like working out, I'm not gonna play the Death Note soundtrack. Like the music's good, but it's just good to service the show.
What's
Muffler,
your-
what is your take?
Well, yeah, I agree with you guys on that. I would say that I even forgot how good the opening and endings were and stuff. Which I would say the opening and endings are pretty fair. Like I like the first opening more than the second
Yeah.
opening, but
I
did
think
not.
I think
did not
Pilgrim
remember-
likes the second opening because it sounds
Yeah.
like the dude's calling you a slur.
Well, like it actually drops f-bombs and stuff in the second opening, which I didn't even realize. Like I don't remember hearing the second opening, so the fact I was able to go through and watch that, I really enjoyed it quite a bit. So
Well,
I think
that's what I mean. It sounds like he's calling you the F slur.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Hey, listen to the song and you'll understand what I'm talking about.
Okay, all right.
Hey,
you've convinced
Hey, bag
me.
it.
Okay?
Hey, bag it. Hey.
French bread, huh? French bread.
Yes.
Okay. No, but yeah, I mean, so that's what my commentary was going to be. Is that like the opening one is considered to be like a legendary one, and I was like, I don't really remember it, but no, once you listen to it a couple times, I'm like, oh no, yeah, this actually slaps. This is pretty good.
It
I
really
get
wasn't my
that.
thing, but it is a good intro nonetheless.
Yeah.
So it is good, but
The bite of
it
the apple.
like is it like Attack on Titan?
No.
Like the very first intro good. Da 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 da. Never,
No.
never, ever.
I
will
still
be that
think
good.
Attack on Titan's second intro and third intros are some of its best. Gurren no Yumiya, don't get me wrong, it's a fan-fucking-tastic intro. I think there are hardly any misses as far as Attack on Titan's intros go. But my favorites will always be Jiyu no Tsubasa and Sasageo.
I don't I don't think that Death Note's first intro is like, I get it. I've heard the same thing that, Muffler said. I've heard people say it's legendary, and maybe I'm just being a contrarian, but I don't view it in that way. Like, it's 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 good, but I don't view it as like a legendary opening. That's just my own point of view.
To be fair, it opened my like taste in music up to a little bit of criticism. I've always been a huge fan of Attack on Titan's intro, Red Swan. And I know not a lot of people like thought about that, but I will admit it does get done really dirty by the cutoff for the intro. It's still good if you ask me. It's one of my favorites, but it's so much better when you listen to the whole song and how it builds to the second chorus.
Yeah, agreed. The live version too blew me away. Like, that was amazing. So kudos to them. I mean, that raised it up in my book. But sorry, good.
Yeah, but Death Note's intro, it is good. It is catchy. It just ends up being one of those things where like it's not really my thing. I just don't vibe with it, man. Like a lot of other intros I do vibe with, and that's kind of an issue I've had with like this latest season of anime, is there weren't a whole lot of intros that I was really vibing to. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Like everyone was praising the beginning after the ends intro, and I thought it just sounded like a shitty 2000s emo song. I can't this
What?
So, to your point, though, I think that's part of the issue. So, like, the reason why I think the opening is iconic and legendary is because I think it's a product of the time, right? So, like, you have to put yourself back in like the mid 2000s when this aired, or mid to late 2000s when it aired. It's like, oh,
My
crap.
Chemical Romance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that's.
Yeah, I get it.
It was right there up everybody's alley at that time.
It definitely hit a note with like the popular like musical sentiments of the time. It is very much a product of its time. And I didn't grow up listening to music in that era. Like the things I was listening to at that time were like I don't know. I guess I would say it was like the Christian alternative stuff because of the home I grew up in. So like Switchfoot, Thousand Foot Crutch, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like
my taste got better over time. Okay. I still like those bands, but
I didn't even get into rock music until I was like 14 or 15. I was like a rap and a pop kid. So like,
well, and to be fair, I'm not talking about like worship music or anything. I'm talking like legitimate like alternative bands. Like I still think they're good. They're like some of these bands that I listen to, I will still listen to their music. It's just like now my taste is completely different because I've listened to a lot of different things.
My view is, Muffler, like, I get what you're saying, and like, I'm not disagreeing with you about like Death Note's intro being like a product of its time, but what I would say is I don't like the thing that makes other anime intros better. Like, even if you take Dragon Ball's first like intro, what makes these other animes intros I think better is the sense that they're timeless, not that they're a product of their own time.
Dude, I still sing along to Chala Head Chala every time it comes on.
Yeah,
touche.
Yeah.
But see, that's what I was going to say is that so that generation. So again, this is me speaking to like my age a little bit, but post 2000, right? Like
we like having the older people around here for that sort of thing,
Touche. But so yeah, that post 2000s generation that was able to be like exposed and brought up from early childhood on with anime, like just integrated fully in your life, right? When those people were graduating and stuff, that's when so 18 to 20 years old is when a lot of these people were when this anime came out. So that's what I was saying on that, is that you had that big influx of a generation along with that. Yeah. So that's theirs. So they'll defend it. But yeah. I didn't even watch this when it came out too, to be honest with you, because I was doing other stuff. All right. Like, when this anime was coming out, I was living my best life. Okay. So it was,
he was doing DMT.
I wish. Okay. but close. All right. Anyway,
I was throwing my Batman action figures against walls and going like this, because I didn't know how to control myself. So yeah, no,
So
that was
you've always just been autistic. Got it. No, at that age,
ever since I was born. Yeah.
at that age, me and my friends were beating each other up with sunflower stalks.
What?
Yeah.
Nice.
Right
Nice.
on.
No, not nice. That's painful. Those things are
Okay.
fucking solid.
Well, if you get a bundle of them together too, maybe, right? A bundle of sticks, perhaps.
Yeah, have you ever like held a sunflower stalk?
No.
They, dude, it's like bamboo.
Oh, okay. That
Yeah,
would be wild then.
it's like, I mean, they're softer than bamboo, but like they fucking hurt if you use them as swords. And for some reason, whatever reason, my mom had like decided to let us use like she didn't want to do the work of like getting rid of the sunflowers. So she's like, yeah, sure, the flowers are dead. It's the end of the season. Go ahead, just break them off and use them as swords. All right. Terrible decision. Terrible decision.
Why would you do that?
Because we're dumb
In-
kids and we thought they looked like swords. We were gonna hit each other with lightsabers either way.
Yeah.
In his defense, okay, what I did, okay, whenever I was younger, all right, is we actually had boken, all right, and if you know what a boken is, which that's like a practice samurai sword, like a katana almost, right? And that's made out of like oak or like some type of hard wood that can withstand a hit. And I would duel my cousin with that shit, and that was painful as crap if it got you in the hands. So yeah, so I did something similar. It's cool, you know. Pain is just in their DNA.
Yeah, see, I don't know if you're a country kid, muffler tape, but I am. So
A
that's the
little
kind of
bit.
stuff we kind of like. I didn't grow up in a city, so like
Yeah.
that's the stuff we got up to. I don't know what it's like for you, Roman.
Philly kid.
Yeah, I am a suburbs kid, so I country life is just not my life. But
Man, I love
to
being far as fuck away from all the fuckery that happens in the cities.
to
Understatement.
to just go back to go back to the music
Yeah.
really fast. So like Crimson Muffler, you guys said that like there aren't any songs you think that like you would take out from like the show. Um, would you say that like there might be any not like iconic, but like maybe scenes from Death Note where like the music enhanced it and like made it better? Or do you think that like the music was overall just like a serviceable thing?
I
Would
think I would say that the music was overall good and did a really good job of emphasizing what the series was doing. It
Yeah.
played along very well. There was no real conflict to it. I think there actually are anime where you can say stuff about this. I have watched anime where they have played really like somber and melodramatic music over like gag bits and stuff, and it just ruins the whole thing. Death Note
Yeah.
is pretty good at using its music to emphasize everything. Like it gets more intense as Light starts scheming and stuff. It has a really good theme for that. And
What did you think of? Now, this is something that I thought of because we were talking about the music here. So just checking in. So, what did you think of like the almost Akatsuki-esque, biblical themes? Because I actually did enjoy those. I did think that those were pretty nice. That that whole like pain,
I'm
theme
not gonna
music
lie.
type stuff.
I am a sucker for like vocal and like biblical themes.
Yeah.
They just do something for me, and I think that it represents like I, I think that like especially when it comes to villains, you really cannot capture a villain's true evil if their song doesn't have some sort of like evil biblical vocals in it. At least that's my own like point of view. But yes, I think true facts. I think though, Muffler, like to your point, yeah, I'm a sucker for like for like biblical music and like vocal music.
Mhm.
That's more my type of speed. So like I'm a sucker for like even like in like like there could be nothing happening in like Naruto, but then like what's his name? Day
Datara.
yeah, him. When his theme song plays and you hear the da 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 and there's nothing happening, like like me, even though it doesn't like thematically fit, I'm a sucker for it. It's just like really cool. So like I think
Yeah.
that instance, I'm a sucker for like vocal music, no matter where it's placed. Generally, I like music to be placed in like, thematically appropriate times. But bro, if you're gonna throw some like vocal music at me, I don't care if you like if you
Like
want to play some like
choral. Yeah.
yeah, like if you want to play some like evil vocal music in a happy scene, go right on ahead. I don't care.
I don't know. I
Oh,
feel like that would end up ruining it, but that does go back to like other series that I have mentioned. Sound design is generally like really important to like some of these things in the way like that it's delivered. That includes like the music and stuff. So like you have like really, really good series. Like one of the reasons I say Attack on Titan's soundtrack is what I think is one of the best anime soundtracks out there, is because like there are so many good pieces of music that do exactly what you're talking about, where they really do like emphasize everything that's going on, just the general mood in the air, everything, the tension or whatever, or like even just the excitement and yeah, like just
sorry.
like the excitement. Uh there's a lot of good stuff. Freerin does a similar thing. I don't think it does it as well as Attack on Titan, but a
Yeah.
lot of its music is really good at emphasizing um the sentiments of any particular scene. Death Note's music, I don't really remember much of it, but I do remember around like the tense scenes where like light starts to scheme or doing something like really dramatic, like the Chips scene. That music really did help cement the sentiment of it.
I
Yeah.
think I think Hiroyuki Swano does a pretty good job in most of the things he's attached to. That would be my one question. I don't know who did the sound design for, or the, who was the composer and stuff like that for the anime, and I'd be curious to find out for sure. But yeah, I mean, again, like I think the two big names I have going right now would be Swano as well as Kensuke Ushio. So between those two guys, I think that you're solid in any anime they're attached to at the moment.
Taniyuchi and Yoshihisa Hirano.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. I'd have to look them up.
So Taniyuchi composed and arranged tracks 1 through 21, while Hirano composed and arranged tracks 22 through 28. This is according to Wikipedia.
Okay. I wonder what other
So
properties.
see, there are 28 pieces of music in Death Note, and I can only think of one. Outside of the
Yeah,
intros, I should say. Outside of the intros and outros.
I can only really think of like maybe two.
They had that choral tune again that made me think of like Naruto, and stuff. That's the only one I can remember like very solidly because I heard it quite a bit at times, and that was to emphasize, the whole like biblical awe of, yes, I am taking these actions and I am doing this, yeah.
The Akatsuki theme is,
Yeah.
I would say, like an iconic sort of piece of music when it comes to anime.
Yeah.
You just can't. It's one of those like few, just like if you immediately know shit's going down if you hear that.
Yes, correct.
Facts. Or like if you hear like the pain theme, you literally like that sounds like you're like in a church.
Yes.
So like
That's why I love it. It's great.
yeah. But like so me being newer to like watching more consistent anime, out of all of the ones that I've seen, Death Note does have like the weakest music, I would say. It's still good, but it's like maybe this is biased because I love it and like I've watched it as a whole maybe twice, but I really do love Dragon Ball's songs. would I say that they're as iconic as like, you know, Attack on Titan or even like Naruto's or like Cowboy Bebop's? No, but Dragon Ball songs are still like pretty good, and I would put them above Death Notes. Maybe not like super high over them, but I think that I just have more connection to Dragon Ball songs than
Some
I do to
Dragon Ball
Death Note.
songs are really, really good.
Yeah.
I know not a lot of people like the Boo arc, but I do like Super Boo's theme.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
Perfect Cell theme. I mean, I don't
Yep.
think you can. Majin Vegeta. There's another one that's actually really good.
Yeah.
And then even like Super had some really, really good soundtracks, like Jiren's theme,
Yep.
uh, Ultra Instinct. It was a little weird, but like once you started listening to it, it was really fucking good.
I'm even kind of a fan of like it's kind of jank, but like I kind of like Frieza's theme too. But like
Oh no, I love Frieza's theme, dude.
yeah. Yeah.
Then
Nah,
again,
but like
Frieza's one of my favorite characters from that series. So
yeah. Um but nah, like I don't like there might be some like diehard Death Note fans that say that like, you know, the music's peak, but and like it doesn't take away from the series for me, but out of all of the animes that I've seen so far, um oh, and I've also watched season 1 of you know, Chainsaw Man. So, out of out of all the shows that I have seen, Death Note's got the weakest music. Sorry, but that just is what it is. Because
I also have to
Chainsaw's
really
music,
praise the soundtrack for Chainsaw Man because every episode had a different ending, which was fucking ridiculous at the time when it happened. I'm like, that is crazy. More anime have started doing stuff like that. Like Too Many Losing Heroines actually had 3 outros for the entire season based on which character they were focusing on for a specific section.
It's
So,
good for promotion. I could see
Mhm.
Japan shifting to
But-
that model more often.
yeah, like Kickback was a fucking great song. Chainsaw Blood, I believe 50 centimeters to death or something like that was another one of the endings that I still listen to.
Yeah, Maximum the Hormone did that one. They're great. You know,
Is that Maximum the Hormone, really?
yeah, because you're talking about that, demon or devil in the name of devil.
No.
Oh well, shit. I'm sorry.
I'm talking about different.
Sorry.
I
There's a
gotta
lot of good
gotta
ones.
find
There's
this
a lot
now.
of good ones. All right.
there are.
I basically downloaded them all. Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause they're good.
Let me see.
Do you um Muffler without like inquiring too
Oh,
much?
I'm sorry. I'm wrong. It's called First Death. It's by TK from
Oh yeah, that was
First. I
great.
love First Death. That
Yeah.
song is great, if you ask me.
Without inquiring too much, if you don't want to give up your actual age, when you would download music, would you download them onto your Walkman or onto your like, you know, iPod? Or I'm trying to gauge like how like what like, you know, generation you're
I'm
from.
guessing an MP4 player.
No. Actually, Crimson's closer to accurate. Okay, well, it was a Creative Labs, okay, MP3 player. All right, because I was like not an Apple person. I refuse to buy anything Apple. I hate Apple. Okay, so I'm always a rebel. Okay, I have a PC. All right, and I have a Linux box. Okay, but
Samsung right
anyway,
here. Yep.
What? What'd you say?
Nah, I was just saying that
See,
I
I
got
love
like
the
a
Android because
I
apparently
got
it
a
has a
Samsung
free.
Galaxy.
It has a free gold digger filter. There are stories of women walking out on dates when they see guys have an Android because it apparently signifies that you're poor.
good.
No.
All right, I mean,
These phones are actually better. Like just like, you know, 100%.
Don't let an Apple person hear you say that. They'll eat your ass or
Samsung.
something.
Yeah, no, yeah, I have a sister that worships Apple, and yeah, we always get into arguments on stuff. All right, but anyways, but no, yeah. So, funny story about that Creative Labs MP3 player. It was a chunky little bastard. Okay, had a small little screen, had a minor haptic. Because back in the day, it wasn't a full touch screen. Okay, you'd have touch sensors on them because they were that old. All right, almost like the wheel days of the original iPod. All right. And the
I
thing
actually had
about
an
it is,
MP3 player myself when I was younger, and it had that wheel on it, no touch screen. That's how I
Yep.
first started listening to music.
And so, the thing about the Creative Labs player though is that it doubled as a hard drive too, which was a pretty big deal to have like a portable hard drive. All right, because at the time storage was a big commodity in the mid 2000s. All right, so the thing is, I took the damn player and I used it at school. All right, and I would do my papers on it and stuff and transfer it to different computers and stuff. Right. Well, one of my finals was on the thing. All right, and it corrupted. All right, and I lost my final for English or whatever, and I freaked out and I threw the thing and it exploded in the hall and it shattered into pieces and stuff. And then I gathered the pieces back up and taped it back together, and the damn thing still worked. Okay, I was able to use it still, but I still lost that paper. Unfortunately, I lost about a half day's work. So I remember that. All right, that was a personal beef that I had at the time. Anyway, hey man, I'd write a death note on that shit. All right, I'd be like, goddamn thing. Anyway, sorry.
So I think we're kind of like running low on things to talk about, so I guess we'll wrap it up with like a few random points and stuff. Like, can we all agree that like Elle is the best character in the series?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, if I'm
Is she
simping,
my
I would
favorite?
say
No,
Lisa,
but yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, my overall rating of this show, I guess we can go around kind of like make some final thoughts on this before closing this out. My overall rating of this show, it would be like an 8.5 out of 10. That's what I would give it. I think the first 2/3 of it are fantastic. Like, great crime thriller all the way through, the mind games that are being played, the two characters who are going at it. It is fantastic. And I believe that like you will be able to come back to this show years later, and it'll still be good, just as it is today. Like, even by today's standards, this is still a really good anime, in my opinion. But it does suffer in the final act because it loses one of its integral characters, and that's why I can't give it that like higher score, getting into the 9 to 10 range, because well, without Elle, it's just not as good.
Man.
Everything else, though, production wise, right, like production wise, it is a fantastic series, and you can tell that the people who were working on it were really, really taking it seriously. This was, in my opinion, a really good piece of entertainment.
So the first 2/3, like I said earlier, is like a 9.5. I might even skirt 10, but the last third is like a 6 or like a 5. So I gotta give the show, balancing it out, maybe like a 7.5. Which for me is high because generally I consider things to be anything above a 6 is good. So I still think that
See,
it's
for me, I'm
good.
sort of weighting it because I would say that the last third is like a 6, but that's
Mm.
only the last third. The majority of the show is like a 9.5 to me.
Yeah. But so like I would give the show. Oh, you know what? I'll be nice. I'm gonna overall give the show an 8. Um, I think that overall, like, it's still one of the best animes ever made, and there is no one that I think that should question that. Like,
Yeah.
Death Note's importance on anime and like the anime culture is significant, and it will forever be a part of the annals of like important animes. And I personally really like it, and I know that this will never happen, but I want I'm not really a big fan of continuations being done with like spin-offs, but if I could get a Ryuk show, I would die a happy man.
I do
And
believe they made like a
And
one shot where Trump got the Death Note, but
what?
yeah, I
What?
think that's a thing out there. I think
okay.
there's like a one shot manga where like It's like Trump gets a hold of the Death Note or something like that. This
That's
came out like shortly after his first election.
that's actually awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So Muffler, I guess
Yeah.
we'll close it out with like your thoughts overall.
Yay, I get to be the final word, I guess. No, in my opinion, like it's not a genre I typically enjoy, first off, okay? But I would say that it is very strong regardless, all right? So if I'm basing it off of personal preference, it would be something closer to a 7, but I can objectively look at the property and go, it is better than that. Okay, so I would probably rate it, like fairly at about like an 8 or an 8.5, something like that. Okay, but for me, personally, it's not something I would normally watch, which is probably why I dropped it originally and never finished the series. I think it probably, or I blanked it from my mind. One of those two things. Okay, but the thing is, on this rewatch though, I did enjoy it quite a bit. I had to rush to try to meet the deadline, but I'm glad that I finished it out and stuff. So yeah, again, I would say that objectively, it's probably like an 8, 8.5, something like that, because it is iconic. It has a very unique story. I would say overall, even though it obviously borrows from things like Hamlet and stuff like that. We talked about it a little bit, but I still think that it's, if you look at it from a modern retelling perspective, I think that it can like pull in, younger generations basically, because it's an interesting idea. I mean, who doesn't want to have the power to just, smite down somebody that you think deserves it type of thing, right? And so you get to see that play out. And so I think it has a compelling narrative for people, in this day and age. So yeah, I would say it's probably an 8.
All right. Well, that is going to conclude this month's Fictionology. Next month, hopefully the other retard will be here because this is the show he picked. Hopefully Roland will be around to do the next show because it is about Star Blazers or Battleship, Space Battleship Yamato, whichever one you want to call it. That's the next one we're going to be covering. So, I hope you've all enjoyed, and to those of you who have listened this far after the show, I appreciate you too. Thank you to everyone for showing up. I always appreciate the people who are here live and interact with us and have some fun. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you again to the guests, Muffler Tape. I know you don't have anything to chill, but RG Energy, his channel, not the podcast channel, is in my Friends of the Channel tab on my main page, but you can find him at RG Energy. You can also find him at the Roller Rome Cast, where they are live every Wednesday. And sometimes I decide to go over there and fuck with them myself. So
it's easy to do.
And argue about
than
Roland's awful physics takes.
Or fast food. Yeah.
Yes. But that said, if you're here, like the stream already, damn it. If you're not subscribed for some reason, this just you happen to have this as your first ever experience of my autism, subscribe because there's plenty of videos that I make about seasonal anime. I'll probably do some character analysis videos. I postponed one on the Tokyo Ghoul one because there were a lot of things I wanted to do, and I just kind of pigeonholed it. So maybe I'll get around to that eventually. But there will be some in-depth analysis stuff that I do want to bring back. And then, of course, I have my usual live streams. There will be this weekend the end of spring anime. So we will be going over and just about everything that is there. It also is an open mic night. I am giving chat the chance to join in and on the live stream discussion, not just in chat. So if anyone feels like they want to be a part of that and comment on some of the things that they've watched, feel free to check
Crimson.
that out.
As a thing that you may want to do on the 28th, which should be Saturday as well, that should be Lord of Mysteries, man. So that may be something to lead off on as well.
There's that. I'm getting to it. I'm also going to be going over all of the upcoming anime for summer and talking about what I'm most likely going to watch and all of that stuff. So it's going to be a long stream. Everyone is, like I said,
marathon.
Yeah, you are welcome to join in and comment on some of the things that you actually care about. You don't have to be there the whole time if you show up. You can be in and out. I don't care. But there will be an invite to chat to join in because I do appreciate having you guys around. Other than that, when the next 3 Wednesday nights are going to be the Crimson News Network talking about anime news, your most trusted source of anime bullshittery. With that said, we're going to end it here. Thank you, everyone, for enduring our rambling and our discussion. You are much appreciated.